Welcome back to the deep dive. This week, we're taking a look at the Azure release notes from a surprisingly busy period.
Right. Late December, early January,
Yeah.
you'd expect things to be pretty quiet.
Exactly. We're talking December 29th, 2025 through January 9th, 2026. And this wasn't just minor bug fixes. We saw some pretty critical governance shifts.
And some major infrastructure maturation points. I mean, for anyone listening who's actually building on Azure or writing the checks for it, this is the kind of stuff you need for your roadmap this year.
That's our mission, right? Cut through the noise and get straight to the action items.
Yep. We've got a big platform retirement to discuss, some key resilience enhancements that are now generally available, and a really huge step forward in cloud-native cost transparency.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the big one, the thing that requires immediate attention and probably some planning.
We do. We're leading with a pretty serious platform management alert, the retirement of custom resource providers, or QRP, as most people call it.
QRP, right?
It's happening within Azure Resource Manager. And, this might sound niche, but it really hits the core governance model for a lot of big companies.
Okay, so before we get into the dates, can you just define QRP for us? What did it actually let people do that makes this such a big deal?
Sure. So historically, QRP was how you extended ARM's own native capabilities.
Okay.
Think of it like this. ARM manages all the stuff Microsoft defines: VM, storage, networking, the drill.
Right, the standard resources.
Exactly. But what if you needed to, say, connect a third-party billing system directly into an ARM template, or provision some legacy on-prem component through Azure?
So for custom integrations.
Precisely. Use a custom resource provider. It was the technical bridge to make your proprietary stuff look and feel like a first-class Azure resource.
It was the escape hatch for all that complex custom control plain logic. And now that hatch is closing.
It is. And the dates are firm.
So what are we looking at?
The final end of life is October 31st, 2026.
That sounds like a ways off.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's really not for something this foundational. The date you really have to circle in red is July 31st, 2026.
And why is that?
Because that's when they disable the ability to create new custom resource providers. So any new development that relies on this has a hard cutoff this summer.
And I saw in the notes there was an even earlier date, a scream test back in October 2025.
Yes, October 27th. And that's already passed, obviously, but it's really important context.
Can we just quickly explain what a scream test is in this context?
Yeah, it's a great term. It's basically a planned, temporary outage. The cloud provider briefly disables a feature to see what breaks or...
Who screams?
Who screams, exactly. It's a way to gauge dependency. So if you were using QRP and everything was fine around that date, maybe you're okay.
But if your custom provisioning pipeline suddenly went haywire...
Then you have definitive proof you rely on QRP and you need to be migrating, like yesterday. The action item is clear. Pivot to alternatives now.
So what are those alternatives? What should teams be looking at?
Well, the push is toward native ARM features. So things like managed applications, for one, also leaning much more heavily on Bicep and ARM template specs.
And Azure policy, I assume?
Oh, absolutely. Robust Azure policy definitions for that specialized governance logic. They offer similar power, but they're native to the platform.
It makes sense. It's a classic cloud maturity move. You replace the bespoke, custom thing with a standardized, supported platform feature.
It's a trade-off, right? You lose a bit of that absolute customizability, but you gain integrated support and much simpler management.
Okay, so moving on from retirement warnings to some really nice GA announcements. These are about boosting performance and resilience. Let's start with storage.
Yeah, the expansion of Azure Premium SSD V2 disks.
This one is interesting.
This GA really shows how much confidence the platform has in V2 as the default for high-demand apps.
Yeah.
We're talking next-gen block storage that hits sub-millisecond latencies.
And that sub-millisecond number is everything. If you're running, say, a big SQL server or any critical OLTP system, that kind of low latency is just non-negotiable.
For sure. And the price performance is great because you can scale IOPS, throughput, and capacity all independently.
So what's new here? Where is it now available?
Well, the expansion is about its geographic footprint. It's now available in Austria East.
Okay, good for European customers.
But the really critical detail is its availability in a second availability zone in Japan West.
Why is a second AZ in one region such a big deal?
It's all about high availability architecture. Before this, if you were building something in Japan West that needed SSD V2's performance, your resilience model was a bit limited.
You couldn't get true zonal redundancy for that specific disk type.
Exactly. Now you can. You can deploy a proper zonal redundant architecture with synchronous replication across two isolated fault domains in the same region. It's a massive unlock.
That's a huge deal for high-performance systems in APAC. Okay, sticking with resilience, let's talk messaging.
Right, the general availability of geo-replication for Azure Service Bus Premium.
Another fundamental feature.
Absolutely. For anyone running messaging at scale, this is huge. Your queues and topics are often, the heart of a distributed system. If the heart stops.
The whole application stops. And before this, teams had to sort of roll their own failover logic, right?
They did. It's complex application layer stuff.
Yeah.
Now, geo-replication insulates you from an entire regional outage. The platform handles the replication. It just simplifies everything.
Okay, let's move on to something that I think will resonate with anyone who has to manage a cloud budget.
Yes, TCO, total cost of ownership.
We now have the GA of the new cloud-native apps on Kubernetes pricing calculator.
This is such a big win for clarity. I mean, if you've ever gotten a Kubernetes budget approved based only on the cost of the VM.
And then gotten a surprise bill 6 months later for monitoring or security.
Yes. Then this feature is going to feel like a massive relief because this isn't just an AKS calculator. It's a TCO estimator for a production-ready cluster.
So what's actually included in that holistic estimate? It's not just the nodes.
No, and that's the key. It forces you to account for the non-negotiables. It bundles the AKS compute cost with Azure Container Registry.
For your images.
Right, and Azure monitoring for logs and metrics, and Microsoft Defender for security.
What's so interesting to me is that Microsoft is basically admitting that the cost complexity of AKS was a major friction point.
It was. Teams would look at the base compute and think, oh, this is cheaper than app service,
Yeah.
and then get burned by all the hidden dependency costs.
The registry, ingress and egress, the log retention.
All of it. By bundling these things into a single scenario, they're giving you upfront financial predictability. It transforms AKS from this thing you price in a vacuum to a whole solution with a clear price tag.
That clarity is invaluable for planning and getting budgets approved.
It removes ambiguity, which is the enemy of cloud adoption.
Okay, let's shift gears to a feature that's still in public preview. This one is at the intersection of data and security.
Azure Cosmos DB Mirroring with Private Endpoints.
This is all about getting operational data over to the analytical side of the house, specifically to Microsoft Fabric.
Right. And Fabric is incredibly powerful for near real-time insights on your Cosmos DB data. The problem for a lot of customers has been the network security challenge.
If you're in a regulated industry, your security team is going to say no the second you propose sending tons of sensitive data outside a private network boundary.
Exactly. And that's why this preview is so important. It lets you configure your Cosmos DB accounts with virtual networks or private endpoints.
So the replication channel itself is secured.
The entire replication channel to Fabric mirroring can stay within your controlled network. You get the power of Fabric, but you also get to preserve your enhanced network security.
You don't have to choose between analytics and isolation.
You don't. And it shows that Microsoft is really prioritizing these secure data paths as core features, even in a preview. They know that for many customers, private endpoint support is table stakes.
It definitely makes that whole concept of flowing operational data directly into analytics much easier to sell to a security architect.
Sure.
All right, so let's do a quick recap. It was a busy 2 weeks.
It really was.
We covered that major platform governance shift the retirement of custom resource providers. The key date to remember there is that July 2026 cutoff for creating new ones.
Then we hit the GA features that are all about maturing your production workloads. Geo-replication for Service Bus gives you messaging resilience.
And the premium SSD v2 expansion, especially that second AZ in Japan West, really strengthens high availability options.
And finally, that huge improvement in cost visibility with the new AKS TCO calculator. It forces you to think about security and monitoring costs up front.
If you tie it all together, what's the big picture here? What's the narrative for this 2-week span?
I think the narrative is really centered on trust and maturity. They're standardizing the management plane by getting rid of QRP, and they're building trust by making security and cost transparent in things like Cosmos DB and AKS.
It feels like the platform is getting more opinionated in a good way. More secure and financially predictable out of the
I
box.
think that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so that shift in management control is really the theme here. So here's a final thought for you to take away. Given this push to migrate away from custom developer-owned extensions like CAR-T and this new ability to clearly calculate the total cost of an integrated solution like AKS, how much of that core technical control plane are developers and platform engineers willing to delegate back to the platform, all for the sake of simplicity, integrated security, and clear costing? Are we moving to a model where integrated just always wins out over custom?
Something to think about as you're planning for the year ahead. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.